The person who bought this chest of drawers had silver glittery wallpaper all up the side of their stairs. I have never seen a house with so much personality. So if you want to see what type of chest of drawers a person like that would buy, then keep watching. This week it was my birthday and I got 2 beautiful necklaces. I will share a little story about them at the end if you're interested. I got this piece on Facebook Marketplace for £10. It was in good condition and it had been painted with this geometric design. So first things first, I sanded it back to bare wood and then eventually decided to paint it green and went with Pressed Fern by Fusion Mineral Paint. So in my head I pictured sort of a lovely emerald green with some black wax to add a bit more depth and interest. In the end this piece turned into a bit of a guinea pig. It just wasn't working how I'd pictured. I stained the top brown and then also painted the top black just to see which I preferred, and none of it was quite right, so I decided to call it a day, put it back in my shed, and that is where it stayed. So 18 months after the original update, it was back to square one to have another go. So to start I used some wood filler on some of the dings in the top of the drawers, and then also to fill in a couple of holes that I'd created when I did a demo of how to use a hole drilling tool for handles, which is a great tool and I highly recommend it, but seeing as I did use the demo on these drawers, those holes needed filling in too. So with a flat surface on the top with those filled in holes, I then sanded back that layer of black wax on the fronts of the drawers and scuffed up the top of the drawers as well, where they had that stain and black paint, just to even it out nicely. Because I had all those different textures at play, I did a coat of grey primer so I would have a consistent finish that the paint would all look cohesive on top of. So onto the colour of the drawers. Now black was one of my original ideas for painting these drawers way back when, and I guess it had come full circle because that is what I chose this time, but I actually chose it based on how it would look with the paint inlay that I was going to be using next. So I chose Black Sands, which is a grey-black colour from Dixie Belle, and I did 2 coats in total, and you'll see in a second I needed 3 coats on top. I like to paint large surfaces in combination with a brush and a roller. Brush to get it on quickly and a roller to even it out. And in between coats I just used a fine grit sandpaper to smooth back any of the paint nibs of fluff that had got into the layer of paint, so the next layer of paint would be just as smooth. This was already starting to look so much better and calming to me that it was all one colour and no longer a mess, so I was really happy already with how it was turned out, and it wasn't even at the fun stage yet. So I did need to do a 3rd coat on the top after one of my cheeky monkey furry animals decided to have a little wander on a fresh coat of paint. But don't worry, they were fine. The chest of drawers, not so much. That required a touch up. So onto the paint inlay, and this is called Paradise and is created by Orchid Designs and is an image of lots of different birds and flowers and is a repeating pattern. So to start I laid out all my drawers and laid out all the different pages of the transfer to see how the pattern would fit on top. So a paint inlay is only similar to a transfer in that it is an image that you apply to a piece of furniture or decor. However, the difference is the paint inlay, as you would imagine, is made from paint rather than a synthetic film like a transfer. So when you apply it, it actually is embedded into the paint rather than sticking on top of it. So with this design, it was a repeating pattern across several different sheets. And when laying out the design to see how big it will be, it's important to make sure that the paint side is facing down. And there are grid lines on the back of the design so that you can line it up both with the other inlays to the side of it and also to make sure that it is straight on the furniture itself. And there is a border around the design, so I also made sure to cut that out so that each section of the paint inlay would perfectly connect rather than having a border around it. So how to apply the paint inlay? First of all, you do
medium thick coat of paint in the colour of the furniture itself, and you only want to do about one piece of inlay at a time. So each section is approximately 12 by 16 inches, so I painted a layer just larger than that and then laid the inlay into that with the paint side down. I then spritzed the back of the inlay with some water and used a cloth to ensure that the entire page was pressed into that wet paint. And at this stage, you let it completely dry, and to remove the inlay, you again spritz it with some water and carefully remove the carrier paper that it was attached to. And be careful with where you put this paper, because actually the inlay can be reused 2 or 3 times. So if you leave it somewhere carefully with the paint side up and leave it to dry, and then you can come back and use it on a different piece later. And each time you reuse it, it does get slightly more distressed and faded as more of the paint is attached. And that's the really beautiful thing about these designs, is that it is not the perfect image. It does have that distressed look depending on how well it has adhered. And for the most part, that variation makes it really artistic and really beautiful. There were just a few spots where the image was not completely clear, so I touched it up with some additional paint and found that, for example, the colour Sandcastle by Dixie Belle was a really good match for the colour of the branches. And the beauty of the fact that the design is reactivated by water before it is sealed means that really there is a lot of flexibility with able to be more creative with these types of inlays, and you're able to change them right up until it is sealed. Now, because the paint inlay is reactivated by water, you have to be careful with how you seal it. And Iron Orchid Designs actually recommend themselves to use either a water-based sealer in a paint sprayer, so that there isn't that friction with the brush or sponge on top of the paint inlay, or to use an oil-based wax to seal it. I don't use paint sprayers very often, so I didn't want to go with that option, and also sometimes wax isn't the most durable finish, so I decided to take a bit of a risk and use a water-based clear coat and just be really gentle when applying it. And probably it helped that I'd left almost a week between applying the paint inlay and sealing it, because it didn't cause me any issues. But if you were to use a paint spray for your first coat, you would be able to use a brush or sponge on your second coat. You just want that initial barrier between the paint inlay and the brush so that it doesn't drag and possibly smudge or make the inlay bleed at all. So the original handles were plain silver. I even had to saw off because the screw had been stripped on the other side. So I found some affordable ones, which was good because I did need 15 of them. A little bit fancy, but nothing that would be overwhelmed by the intricate design of the drawers. I gave them a bit of a makeover by adding some bronze copper glaze to them. So I put the glaze into the ridges and dabbed off the excess, and it gave them a little bit of an aged, prettier look. And as the drawers are not a true black but a grey black, they blended much more nicely, as though they really fit the piece. I really love this paint inlay. I think it's such an exciting new product, and I can't wait to see where Iron Orchid Designs take it. Apparently it took 3 years to perfect the design of the products, but it is still relatively new, so there aren't too many examples out there how people have used it, so it has a lot of potential for the future. I particularly like the bright colours of the birds against the darker background, and think that the 18 months that it took to wait to find the right style for this piece was worth it. I'm really happy with the update and think it looks really beautiful. So it's had a few transformations in its time, from geometric design to emerald green with black wax to grey black with some bright birds. So it's been through a lot, but I think it's found its happy place now.
These 2 necklaces are so funny that I got for my birthday. One is from my mum and one is from my friend. They are both handmade, they are both blue and pink, and they both have flowers. So if there's a type of jewellery that I like, apparently they have discovered it. I will share the link to one of the artists below. Her name is Shirley Henderson. If if you want to check out her pieces. Thank you so much for watching this chest of drawers makeover. Until next time, bye.